Welcome to High-Fliers with me, Russell Walker. Now, there's no doubt that over the past few months, we've all had to get used to watching repeats of some of our favourite shows on the telly. But there have been some new programmes appearing under lockdown restrictions. One of them being Escape to the Chateau, Make Do and Mend, with Dick and Angel Strawbridge. The company that makes the show is Two Rivers Media, based in Glasgow, and I'm delighted to welcome its managing director, Alan Clements, onto High-Fliers. Alan, what happened to the programmes you were working on when lockdown kicked in?
Well, a range of responses, as you might imagine, depending on the show. So to take them in order, probably the one that was most pressing was we were making Inside the Trial of Alex Salmond for BBC Two Network. And COVID hit, as you may remember, the day of the verdict. So literally, all jury trials had been stopped apart from his because they were so close to a verdict. And so we were facing a situation where we had a verdict and we couldn't really film anymore and we couldn't edit anymore. So working with the director, producer Sarah Howitt, we set up a remote edit where she could direct remotely with the editor working remote from home with the discs. And then once lockdown entered its second stage, where you were allowed to do socially distanced filming, we went out and filmed other contributors so we could finish the edit and deliver the film, which obviously went out a couple of weeks ago to some controversy, but some great reviews. And that's an example maybe of what you can do at a time of lockdown and using your ingenuity and I guess your entrepreneurship to say, is there a way we can't make it work the traditional way? Is there another way we can do it? And similarly, we're making a show called, because obviously our timing is impeccable, Inside Time Castle. So I'd agreed with Anne Budge that we would do a season where they expected at least a top 6 finish, maybe top 3, maybe Europe. And this is the season, from a business point of view, it's very interesting from a business point of view, where Anne was due to hand over to the supporters. So Hearts would become the biggest fan-owned club in the UK, much like the kind of German model of how football clubs are run. So it was a huge business story, a huge sports story, and obviously you always have the roller coaster of the season. Well, little did we know, obviously, they're now on to their third manager in 9 months, relegated to the Championship, legal action against the SPFL, and so it's going to be a great documentary series. But again, we've had to pick up film, which was all due to be delivered and screened by now, because the season was over. So we went back, we're doing totally COVID-friendly filming, because we have to be tested as much as the players have to be tested. And we're going to finish the series with Hearts' opening game in the Championship in October and deliver it. BBC Scotland have been incredibly supportive, because obviously there's nothing we can do about the pandemic, and certainly nothing we can do about Hearts' season. But it's made it what I thought would be a fascinating story into an incredible story. So sometimes luck plays a part in this, as you know, Russell, in production. And I think we've got a really amazing story to tell of that.
Those two shows that you're talking about, that must have been incredibly frustrating, because they're both kind of dependent on time, aren't they? Especially the Salmond one. So your initial reaction, I guess, would have been, "Oh no, how is this going to work?" And then
maybe a bit stronger than "oh no."
Yes, I can imagine. But then to have the broadcast to actually be on your side. No, I wouldn't say for a change, but you know, there's a solidarity, isn't there? And
yes,
okay, nobody can be held responsible for this. It's nobody's fault. Let's just get on with it and see how quickly we can do it.
Well, actually, in both those cases, BBC Two and BBC Scotland, respectively, they couldn't have been more supportive. And actually, ironically, they were more delighted they were going to get something then they'd be left with a big empty hole, because a lot of programmes just toppled over. Studio entertainment shows, all of those kinds of shows just fell apart. And so at least we could deliver something. And then with the Dick and Angel, so we were we have got this great new relationship with Dick and Angel from Escape to the Chateau fame, and they wanted to do a new kind of show. And to be completely honest, we were developing something that was different from Make, Do and Mend. But when COVID hit, we said, what can we actually do with them? And we remotely taught them how to film with iPhone 12s and a Canon 205, and they shot all of that themselves.
Wow.
All of it. And what I was really proud of, I mean, apart from, it was Channel 4's biggest 8 o'clock launch since Bake Off. But what I was really proud of is you don't watch that and go, that's a lockdown show.
I've seen it. I've seen it, and it in fact, you may have made a huge mistake there.
No, we've got a crew out now. They're very happy to have a crew out. No, we've a crew going this week. Now we've done all the protocols, and they're really, but they're, much as they enjoyed the experience, I think they'll be very happy to have a professional crew back out. But they were fantastic. They absolutely embraced it. And the people who were sending their DIY problems and issues in were also brilliant. But it was Lizzie Wooten from her room in Hindland doing this massive coordination. And we had one edit suite in Glasgow, one on, this woman had her own edit suite on a barge on the River Cam in Cambridge. And it was just everybody mucked in, and then trying to make sure all the sound levels worked together. It was just an incredible jigsaw, and Lizzie did a fantastic job with it. So the channel are absolutely delighted. It rated brilliantly.
Looking at other things, more general points now, Alan. Glasgow obviously didn't become the choice of Channel 4 for the headquarters that went to Leeds, although there's a Channel 4 hub here. How disappointing was that, and how important was not getting that Channel 4 HQ to the city, do you think?
No, I don't think that's a real disappointment at all. I think if we hadn't got one of the hubs like Bristol, I think that would have been really disappointing. And actually, my bet, I had a small wager with someone, was Leeds to get the headquarters, and Glasgow and Bristol to get the hubs. And the reason I say that is I went to the very first presentation at Hospital Road, and they went, the headquarters has to be within 4 hours travel distance to London. And I have travelled between Glasgow and London in 4 hours, but I wouldn't say that was my normal experience of travelling between Glasgow and London. And so I knew Glasgow wasn't going to get it, despite Stuart Cosgrove and David Smith and all the team who did such a fantastic bid. But I was pretty sure at a time of a devolutionary United Kingdom, they could not have a hub in one of the nations. I thought it was unlikely to be Belfast, and that's why I thought they would do Bristol, because Bristol and Cardiff are a really one travel to work area across the Severn Bridge. So if you look at Casualty, the drama that films down there, people live in Bristol and work in Cardiff and vice versa. So I was pretty sure Glasgow had a really strong case for getting one of the hubs. And to be honest, we've got Joe Street here, who's the daytime and early peak commissioning, head of commissioning. We've got Deborah Dunnett, who's commissioning actual entertainment. So I don't think we've done too badly out of it at all. So I'm not down.
What's quite interesting for me is as someone who's worked in television, most people always want the best quality possible. So if you're doing interviews, they should be done face to face, beautifully lit, blah blah blah, etc. etc. Even for chat shows, the same rules apply. But I just wonder now if that is going to be the case going forward. So for example, if you say, even if you're in London and you say you're working on the one show and you say, well, Keith Richards is available, but he can't come to the studio. Whereas before you might have said, okay, well, we won't have him. Now, I'm just wondering whether that is possible, because you just say, well, we'll do it by Zoom, because actually nobody really bothers.
You might. I think you're starting to see, and there's a great Enders analysis of ITV, Claire Enders' company, who do analysis of the business of show, of television and broadband and so on, going, if you look at the viewing figures, when COVID hit, the rising tide of viewers at home lifted all boats. Broadcasters, the streamers, YouTube, everybody. But what has happened is as that has subsided, the broadcast channels have fallen, particularly the commercial PSBs, but the streamers have held on to those viewers. So I think we all have to start taking cognizance of how that's going to change things. So I wonder, yes, I think that's true. People will accept this kind of interview, but they don't love it. And if you see the actual lockdown shows, that they started to tail off pretty quickly. And the minute people can get good dramas back and big entertainment shows back, like The Voice, with an audience, they will want that. And similarly, in business, I think I enjoy this, and it's great to be able to catch up with people and not just on a phone. All of that's good. But I don't know how many deals are ever done over Zoom and not over a handshake. Do you know what I mean? I think if somebody's going to invest in your company or somebody's going to buy a huge show for you, I think they want to see the whites of your eyes. And so I think that will definitely come back. Because if you think, I think this has changed a lot, but if you think how long we've had Skype, and how many deals were actually done in Skype, not that many.
There's definitely a feeling among small indies, I think, Alan, at the moment, that unless you are incredibly well connected, things are going to be really tough for you going forward. And that's probably been the case for the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years. What do you think the future holds for small indies up here?
Well, again, it's hard to say. It depends on the level of capitalisation, I would say. We are, again, fortunate in this, in that we're a new company. We only launched really last January, but we raised quite a lot of money. And we've got fantastic backers in the Channel 4 Growth Fund, and also Sir Angus Grossart's Noble Grossart Investment House. And so if you don't have that backing, I think it's going to be really tough. And you've seen a kind of slew of news stories of companies shedding staff, or Firecrest closing their London office, Matchlight closing entirely, that I think is only the start of a process of rationalisation across the business, across the industry. But, you know, maybe there were too many companies having, that's cheeky of me, having just set up a company, maybe there were too many production companies chasing too little work. I think the connection, though, the traditional connections with the BBC, with Channel 4, with ITV, will not be sufficient going forward. I think of who we've spoken to by Zoom in the last couple of months, Disney Plus, Amazon Prime, Netflix, and I think you're going to have to engage with a whole new, for the Scottish industry, series of customers in order to prosper going forward, because the commercial PSBs are simply not going to have the cash, and the BBC is going to start to feel the bite, even if it gets away with its deal on over 75s with the licence fee. It's going to start to feel the bite, and you see, the news and current affairs cuts that are coming, and the rationalisation across studios, BBC studios. So I think we're going to have to be looking to new customers. But on the other side, what is true for the BBC is what is true for the indies, as well as the commercial PSBs having less money. The money they do have, they're going to spend outside of London because they have that priority. The BBC has that commitment. Channel 4 has obviously made a massive commitment to out of London spending. And even ITV's making a nod in that direction, even though it's nothing specific in the nations. It has 50% out of London in its budgeting. So I think, and obviously Channel 5 under Ben Frow has been very supportive of lots of indies in Scotland. So I think there are great opportunities. Where I would not want to be right now, to tell the honest truth, is having a medium-sized factual indie, being a white guy running it in London. I think you then have no USP at all, because broadcasters are looking for out of London or diverse voices, and quite rightly, because they're totally righting a historic wrong. But I think if I had a small factual indie in London, I think I'd be looking for something else to do with my life, because I think it's going to get really, really, really tough for them. But I mean, they had it good for a lot of years. I mean, my heart is not breaking, but you see that seismic shift. And it's a bit like because I'm so old, I've lived through lots and lots of waves of we mean it about out of London, and they never really did, but they really, really do mean it this time. And we want to take advantage of that. And I think it's also true about diversity, wider diversity in the industry. I think they really, really do mean it this time. And it's a mixture of what David Olusoga was arguing in the McTaggart and the Black Lives Matter, that people are going, we really have to not pay lip service to this anymore. We really, really have to change. And I think for the BBC and the commercial PSBs, that's going to be a big, big priority.
How strong do you think the Scottish independent sector is going forward now?
I think there are some outstanding companies here. You know, Tern's a brilliant company, you know, led by Harry Bell. You know, Firecrest have had a great year. Red Sky is a fairly new company, has done very well. So I think there are pockets of strength, and I would hope Two Rivers would fall in that group as well. I think the worry is what the worry has been for 25 years or longer since I've worked in the industry, is the industry itself is fragmented. None of the companies are massive, and I include STV Productions now, STV Studios, now rebranded, in that it's turning over 20, 30, 40 million a year. We don't have that size of company. The companies tend to be undercapitalised, and I think that's a weakness in the sector. That's the glass half empty. The glass half full is Scotland is a priority for the public service broadcasters, the BBC and the commercial public service broadcasters. So if you've got good ideas and good people, then I think it will prosper. And the vision I sold to the investors when I set up Two Rivers was, we're going to do this absolutely right this time. Everybody's moving to Scotland. All the heads of genre, the head of development, everybody lives in Glasgow or in Scotland. And we are going to try and build a company of scale in Scotland and answer that need. The broadcasters, answer the question the broadcasters are posing is, who's going to do those big productions of scale? Who has the capacity to deliver to the network from Scotland to a network or indeed an international audience? And that's the question we are trying to answer. I know other companies are trying to do the same, but you need cash, you need investment to do that, and you need patience in your investors, and you need real quality. And the people that have been so fortunate to hire brilliant people, some who came with me from STV and others who came to join the company, and they all came on the same adventure of saying, right, we're moving our lives to Scotland and we're going to make this work. And COVID notwithstanding, that's still what they want to do. And that's what makes me hugely optimistic about the future. And for the future of Glasgow and the brilliant city it has now become.
Alan Clements, thank you so much for joining me on High-Fliers. It's been a pleasure to talk to you and get your thoughts on the future of TV production and what we're going to be watching on the television over the next few months.
Thank you, a real pleasure, Russell.